Hello and welcome to Dongomet channel. It is time for an update for Mr. Ulgaard regarding your blade blanks, sir. This is the current condition. I will explain. I would say that we're a little past halfway in this whole process, wherein it's a nice moment to make a video and maybe talk a little bit about what I've done and how I did it. So these were Stanley chisels made from flat stock. They invariably come a little warped towards the tip. That could be deliberate, There's a warp, and that goes up, as it were, into the single cut bevel. So part of the procedure is flattening, straightening, and I can do that via abrasion, or also down at the tang I did some work with a carbide hammer to get the tang to align broadly to what the blade was doing. So I saved some stock that way, or some tang thickness, or whatever, how you want to look at it. So then here we have, between the two blades, which is the Hedeby Whittler and the straight edge Sloyd knife, possibly a kind of a Bushcliffe variant knife, we have distal taper in opposing directions. In fact, quite subtly on this one, I forgot to get the calipers, so either perhaps we'll be able to detect by eye, otherwise you'll have to take my word for it, but down there is thinner than up there. And this is illustrated by the way that the bevel actually thickens out ever so slightly up there towards the tip. Now this is still rough, right? This is still sketchy. It's not crisped up to the max yet. I was doing a low hollow Scandi grind on this one, but I was doing that on the Tormek, and you're only going to get a very low kind of hollow, for me anyway. Very low hollow Scandi. I didn't think that was so good, so I just raised it a bit, and I'm going for flat. Well, probably, it will be very slightly convexed, because I'm doing it by hand, and in any case, that's how I would do it, because I rate very slightly convexed as vastly superior to completely flat in almost all regards. And so that's how I would provide the knife. And then, if Ulfgaard wants it flatter, he can figure that out. But he'll figure it out in any case. Right, so this one has a conventional distal taper, right? It's thicker up here, and it thins up towards the point. And this is illustrated by the way that the bevel gets thinner. William Collins calls this a woodsman grind, i.e., or aka, a Scandi grind with a distal taper. So I thought that would be a good one for this, and this initially I thought to make flat, but once I realized that there was extra thickness up here at the tip, I said, well, why not conserve that? Because it really makes sense with this design for me. This point is innately delicate. If you're thicker up here, you've got more backup. So, it could be thicker down there as well, but that would just be more stock removal every time you sharpen. And to what benefit? What tends to happen with this kind of knife over time and use and sharpening is they start to get sway up towards the tip. So this will ameliorate that, doing it that way, which is fun. So this I was able to flatten just by putting this flat, okay, like this, on this sandpaper on this kitchen counter, which is pretty flat, relatively speaking, flat enough for me, on the sandpaper. And so this is, as opposed to hand finishing in the sense of fastening this and then getting a block or whatever and working on it, is I'm working absolutely flat. And I just thought that would be the coolest way to go with this. These are completely flat and they just taper out, these two lines. So what that does do is leave me with a little cloudy area up here still, which hand sanding, you would take that out in a couple of seconds. just by fudging it just ever so slightly up there. Now here I have to get the to get the same polish up here. I have to remove from all of this all the way da. So what I do then is hollow out. I could use the Tormek to hollow out a little bit here and then come back to the sandpaper. But this is, again, it's nearly there. Once that's, looking flatty flat, then I can start upping the grits and go for a nice, some kind of polish, as requested by Mr. Ulfgaard. This to me, when you can see scratchy lines, that does not to me qualify as a polish, nor does any kind of belt satin or anything. Polish means polish. And then this one working on the flats is very different, because now we have, instead of it being one straight line, it tapers down here. Then this is a different angle to here, and then here to here, the angles change, and it's all blended as well. So this is a lot more complicated in that regard, and also so is the bevel, because it has a very slight nod to a recurve in it there. I don't know whether that would actually be. Yeah, you could just about maybe see a gap there. That's what I thought I saw in the drawing. Or is that flat as a pancake? Well, whatever. That's the intent. Yeah, and this, getting the belly and everything. So I've been now recutting these bevels, which were very messy. Been tidying them up a bit on this brand new Mr. Smith's aluminum oxide, whatever, from hardware store. So, somebody brought me some raspberries. Thank you. Yeah, that's what that is. Actually, you can see it's kind of dished. I'm pretty sure it was dished as it came, but I was like, well, it's brand new. It's probably fairly flat again. Flat adjacent. And so now that I've cut those a bit more, that means, for example, that up here I've removed more material, meaning that this, I can proceed with this flattening, and it'll be easier for me to get that out. So I do this kind of like, how I whittle a slingshot or whatever. I just keep moving my attention around the whole thing. And then I'm also moving my attention, if in a moment I feel like fatigued with working on this one, I'll switch over to this one, vice versa. And it's like it's the home straight. It's a lot of mechanical activity now, but not so much pondering and thinking and squinting and like, is this straight? Is this the right shape? Is this the right angle? I have crowning work to do on the spines. I quite like this. So part of all of what's going on here is by obligation, because of the way that the chisel stock comes beveled on the top side, as it were. It comes beveled all the way around, right? So part of that bevel turns into part of your edge bevel, but on this side, you kind of have to have a bevel, or you thin out, make your blade less wide. Not thin, but whatever the opposite of wide in that direction. So I'm doing a bit of everything here. I'm compensating on the other side, then I'm continuing that into swedging up at the tip. I could bring this swedging in more, or I could leave it kind of robust as is. There's a little kind of sweep here, which I will seek to imitate on this side. That's still rough up there, but I like what it does on this side. Although that's also messy. But the shape of the shape is what I'm talking about. It's kind of organic, Yeah. Okay. Well, that's what that is. And hey, Ulfgaard, I watched your video today about how you sliced a piece of your finger off with your sisipukko there. And curiously, last night, I had a very weird day yesterday. A lot of strange things happened. And among those was I was chopping some ginger here with this Bear & Son kitchen knife. which, well, now we've bonded, so I'm going to have to make some videos about this Bear & Son kitchen knife. But, yeah, I neatly removed a very large portion of a very troublesome kind of callus / hangnail thing I had going on here. But also I went, deeper than I would have in the interests of pure manicure, and it bled quite a lot. And there was this little disc here on the cutting board. I could hold it up to the light and look through it and see, like, wow, that was a lot of. There's a lot of spare material there, really. I'm kind of glad to let it go, but I had an accident. I had a whoopsie. And my hands otherwise are pretty good. Look, and my hands often, if you watch a lot of my videos, you'll see my hands are filthy. My hands are beaten up and calloused and often have cuts. But most of those cuts I would rate are not, from knives or blades. It's from ripping things up, or my dog scratched me, or whatever, Man of leisure with farmer's hands. Thanks for watching.